Welcome to this explainer. If you just hop online for a few minutes today, you are instantly hit with an absolute avalanche of digital complexity. I mean, before you could even read a simple article, you're navigating pop-ups, consenting to data processing, handling session trackers, managing cookies. It's just exhausting, isn't it? But today, we're going to playfully step away from all that modern digital noise. We're going to look at something far simpler, but actually surprisingly sophisticated when you dive into the clinical data. We are unpacking the science of an ancient, natural remedy. Think about it. To just read a web page right now, you might have to agree to tracking from like 77 different advertising partners, plus persistent cookies and localized profiling. It's a total headache of modern engineering. But contrast that with a single, natural ingredient, honey. There are no user manuals here, no targeted advertising profiles. Yet, as we're going to see from actual clinical trials and medical reviews, this single natural substance acts as a complex medical multi-tool. It's literally doing things inside the human body that, in some cases, completely outperform our highly engineered modern pharmaceuticals. Bodyguard for gut bacteria. Okay, let's dive into this, started with our very own digestive system. A recent study out of UCLA Health took a fascinating look at our gut microbiome. That vast community of bacteria, yeasts, and fungi in our intestines that pretty much regulates our physical and mental well-being. Now, a lot of us eat yogurt to support that microbiome, right? Because it contains live cultures. But there's actually a massive, unseen problem with just eating plain yogurt. To actually reach your gut alive, the beneficial bacteria in your yogurt, specifically a microbe called B. animalis, well, it has to survive a downright hostile trio of environments. First, it has to get past the enzymes in your mouth, then it plunges into the highly acidic environment of your stomach, and finally, it has to survive destructive intestinal bile. These environments are literally designed by nature to break down and destroy biological material so you can absorb nutrients. So a lot of those expensive probiotics you're eating, they simply do not survive the journey. Which is why researchers at the University of Illinois wondered if pairing yogurt with honey, something really common in the Mediterranean diet, might actually act as a protective shield. Now, what's incredibly interesting about this research is the specificity of the results. The researchers didn't just test generic honey. They recreated human digestion in a lab and tested buckwheat, orange blossom, alfalfa, and clover honey. And clover honey emerged as the absolute best at protecting that B. animalis bacteria during the intestinal phase of digestion. They've then tested this out in a real-world setting with 66 healthy adults and found that just 21 grams, so about 1 single tablespoon per day, successfully shielded the probiotic bacteria. And here is the real kicker. A third study proved that plain added sugar completely failed to protect the bacteria. So it's not just the sweetness, it's the specific chemical composition of the honey doing the heavy lifting here. Beating OTC cough syrups. So it's a bodyguard for your gut. But what happens when we move from the digestive system up to the respiratory system? Let's transition over to some clinical data from UB regarding treating acute coughs. We've all been told, right, to take a spoonful of honey for a cough, but how does that actually stack up against modern over-the-counter medicines? And this brilliantly illustrates the comparison. When you evaluate the two head-to-head, honey doesn't just hold its own. For mild, short-term viral coughs, it frequently outperforms standard over-the-counter suppressants like dextromethorphan. Studies show honey actually reduces cough frequency and severity, and this is huge for parents. It improves sleep quality for coughing children and their parents, with far fewer side effects. Meanwhile, the OTC medicines often offer really limited effectiveness for simple viral coughs, and they come with side effects like drowsiness, dizziness, and nausea. So why does it work so well? Well, honey isn't just tricking your brain into suppressing a cough reflex, which is essentially what a lot of pharmaceutical drugs do. It acts mechanically and chemically. It literally coats the throat to reduce physical irritation. It soothes inflamed tissue. It possesses natural antioxidant and antimicrobial properties to help out the area, and the sweetness itself actually triggers saliva production, which keeps the airway moist. It's really a multi-pronged attack on the root symptoms of your cough. Healing burns and wounds. Let's move along and see how this builds when we look at an entirely different organ, the skin. We're going to break down an extensive NCBI review that looked at health technology assessments and clinical effectiveness guidelines comparing honey to conventional clinical wound care. The data on treating burns is honestly truly remarkable. When looking at superficial or partial thickness burns, high-quality evidence shows honey heals wounds faster than conventional treatments. That includes silver sulfadiazine, or SSD, which is a very standard clinical dressing. The burns treated with honey showed a significantly higher rate of rendering infected wounds sterile. Furthermore, the SSD group actually saw higher rates of adverse events, things like hypergranulation, hypertrophic scarring, and irritation. Honey was simply faster, safer, and cleaner for these types of burns. However, we have to look at the full picture of the clinical data here. Honey is not a magical fix for everything, and it's vital we remain strictly impartial. When the NCBI review looked at complex, chronic wounds, the results shifted dramatically. For venous leg ulcers, the healing benefits were totally unclear, and patients actually reported a high frequency of pain and ulcer deterioration when using honey. For diabetic foot ulcers, there was simply insufficient high-quality evidence to show it worked any better than basic saline soaks. And for pressure ulcers, there just wasn't enough data to draw any conclusions regarding localized infections. So the science tells us it is highly effective for specific acute burns, but it definitely falls short for chronic, complex ulcers. Risks, sugar, and limits. Because it's a naturally occurring substance, people often casually assume honey is perfectly safe in all scenarios. But it has absolute medical limits and severe risks that really must be respected. So the crucial point comes down to a single number, 1, as in 1 year old. You must absolutely never give honey to an infant under 1 year of age. Honey can contain spores that cause infant botulism, which is a rare but life-threatening illness. Their digestive systems simply aren't developed enough to handle these spores. This is a hard, non-negotiable medical rule. Beyond the risk to infants, we have to respect its other limitations. Honey is fundamentally an added sugar. If you are diabetic, you must use caution, as it absolutely will affect your blood sugar levels. Next, while it's an incredible symptom reliever for a cough, it does not cure underlying infections, it does not cure pneumonia, and it will never replace antibiotics when a doctor deems them medically necessary. Finally, to circle back to that UCLA yogurt study for a second, while the honey protected the gut bacteria perfectly, the researchers noted that over the 4-week trial, participants showed no short-term improvements in mood or cognitive well-being. It does biological work, for sure, but it's not a shortcut to instant overall wellness. We've seen how a single natural ingredient can shield probiotic bacteria from stomach acid better than sugar, soothe a cough better than some engineered pharmaceuticals, and heal a partial thickness burn faster than conventional silver dressings. It's a fascinating reminder that sometimes the most sophisticated science is already sitting right there in our cupboards. Which leaves me wondering, if a simple spoonful of honey is capable of all this verified medical heavy lifting, what other scientifically valid secrets are hiding right now in your kitchen pantry? Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the science around you.